Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Miami Dolphins remain undefeated in preseason play. They win today 13-6, another nail-biter there at the end, a one-score game. And, what can you say? Anthony Weaver's defense has come up with the stand they need there at the end to keep this thing unbeaten in the preseason. Big story going into the week and into the game, of course, was Tua Tagovailoa going to play? Was the first-team offense going to get any bit of a look? And that was the case. Tua dressed in full uniform. You got the hint that he was going to go out there. How long? Couldn't imagine it was going to be very long, but when you have a first drive like Tua did, there was not need for much more action for your Miami Dolphins. And Tua, he looked fantastic. Dolphins coming out there, using that motion, he comes right out. He finds Cracraft for the first down. They're putting Julian Hill in motion. You go out there now. They even go to a fourth down. They start giving the ball to Mostert. Comes to 4th and 1. I can hear Leroy all the way from Davie. You better make 4th and 1. I don't care if it's the preseason. They make 4th and 1. Raheem Mostert picks it up, keeps the drive going. Then, little flippy flip pass. They got Jonnu Smith in motion. He takes off for 9 yards. You got Achane in there. He gets a first down run. And then this was one of the cool plays of the game. Got a little bit of got a lot of headlines, but Tua, we got to see our first little look at nimble Tua. A guy who is kind of extending. Julian Hill goes out, little sidearm pass, Tua with the pressure right in his face, gets it to Julian Hill, who barrels over a defender. Didn't nearly lose the football, but he keeps in tow. As everybody has said, his physical play is there, and we saw a little bit of that. And then the Dolphins get it all the way down to 4th down after that play, and Tua finds Cracraft for a pristine, beautiful touchdown pass in tangibles to the White Rabbit, Conejo Blanco. Cracraft getting himself in the end zone. And then we would see no more of number 85 as he was injured on this play. I am doing this before the press conference, so I don't know if they have an update on it, but he got shaken up. We did not see him the rest of the way. Cracraft anytime touchdown, my favorite bet of the regular season. I did not have money on this for the preseason game, although Hard Rock's been weird. I don't even know if they have touchdown player props in the preseason. Either way, I'm hoping to hit that in the midst of the regular season. But look, as great a first drive as you can get, you had the mix of the run, you had the mix of the pass, you had the motion in there. It just really all operated smooth. Tua, a clean 5 for 5, 51 yards, 11 plays, 61 yards. The whole drive went fantastic. Bravo. Just a tremendous, tremendous job by the Miami Dolphins. They get up 7-0, and really, you could say, would never look back. Outside of, so that was it. You bring in Skylar Thompson after that. You get to the next drive, and the second big injury of the game happens, and that's David Long, who looks like he banged up either his wrist, hand, or forearm. Not great for one of your starting linebackers, a guy who really brings the thump, the pulse of this Dolphins defense. So they suffered a big injury there. This continues to be the theme of the preseason, of all the bodies that were not there. Now, for the record, there were a lot of guys who did not play in this game just because Tua did. No Tyreek, no Jalen Waddle, who's been missing practice, no Holland. You saw OBJ on the sidelines. He continues to be out. Jeff Wilson was out. You had Jalen Wright was out. So you were really, you weren't huge on the reinforcements today in this one. But, it was definitely noticeable, especially by the end of this game. I'll tell you about something that happened in the second half with the backfield. But for the most part, that offense, looking as good as it did in that first wave was definitely the story of the game and probably the headline of the game. Although we did get another good showing from the rookies. Today, the rookies end, I think, in a big way, Cam Smith. I think Cam Smith, who also looked like he got banged up in this game in the second half, had his leg wrapped up, looked like a hammy, something tightened up there, did not look fantastic, which is a shame because I think if you were to say like, hey, was this the most positive a Cam Smith looked in a Dolphins jersey? I'd say, yeah, probably. And it's interesting because it started off with him whiffing on a tackle, but, you know, he comes back and then he gets a nice one on the big tight end Bates, who, you know, he's given up a lot of size to, and he's able to get the stop on him. And then a couple drives later, he had really just his play of the game where he is riding right with, I can't pronounce the dude's names, Olamide Zaccheaus, I think is how you say it. I'm taking a shot at number 14 on the Washington Commanders, but he stayed right with him and had a pretty one-handed thing. And honestly, all I can think about is, man, I cannot ever. I'm echoing the sentiments of Jalen Ramsey. I can never forgive Vic Fangio for some of the things that he did last year to this dude's confidence. Like, just completely ripped it. And it was a little bit ironic that on the same field today, I had no idea Noah Igbenogany was a Commander, but he is a Commander. And it's tough not to think about all of the confidence that got broken out of Noah Igbenogany. Maybe he never becomes a good player anyway, but you do know that there was definitely a mental side of this game that fried him. And in that position, you need to have confidence. And you got to salute Cam Smith on starting this game, having a mistake, and then being able to rally. You know, it's one thing to make a mistake, but it's another to just keep making a mistake. And he really made it a point to wrap up his tackles, to not whiff on those things, to not take dumb chances, and then was really good in coverage and made some really impressive made some really, really impressive plays. So that was notable on the defensive side of things early on in this game. Skylar Thompson comes in after the first drive, and this is notable because a lot of people were wondering, okay, is this an even quarterback battle, or is this really neck and neck because that's the way Mike McDaniel described it, or is it leaning in a certain direction to Skylar Thompson? And it feels like it is because he came in once again first after Tua. Reporters can't report. I'm sure some of you guys are fans right of the game. Again, I'm on the air during practice, so I do not make it out to a lot of practices, which sucks. Only been to one this year, but there had been a hint that there had been maybe a turn in who was getting the reps, and it seemed like the implication was that Skylar Thompson was starting to take the reins of the QB2 job. And it's tough not to feel like that's the impression you get with today. If he comes in after Tua and is once again, you know, getting the fuller deck, then doesn't that imply that he's ahead of the game and Mike White is once again playing with the second half, the third stringers, all this stuff? Now, I don't feel bad for Mike White. I think there's a lot of he's not getting a fair shake. It's not like all of these decisions are made in the game, and these things aren't all supposed to be fair. Like, Mike McDaniel has seen these two quarterbacks for multiple years. He's had one of them for 3 years, or going into his third year. He's had one of them. Now this is the second year with it. Like, he's had time to decide who is the quarterback he prefers and who deserves the reps with the better players. So I have a hard time feeling bad for Mike White. I know I've seen some of that fodder on social media, but, you know, today he's in the end of this game, like, slinging the ball down the field, and, you know, he had some nice hookups with Eric Ezukama. Like, that's the same guy as a rookie. Skylar Thompson was out here bombing away and making the roster on. So I don't know, man. Like, there was some, you know, he had moments, and then he had moments where he's holding the ball too long, and others where he's just, you know, not really giving anybody a chance for things. Or, you know, the thing that was tough with the second half of this game, I'll get back into a little bit of order here in a second, but the thing that was tough was they had to throw, because they ran out of running backs. They had to just throw. So once again, the second half was a brutal crawl after a smoking first half. But Skylar, you know, he finishes today no touchdowns, but he really should have had one. He had a really great scramble and a pretty throw it got deflected and went right into the hands of Braxton Berrios. But even like to just make it a play, give it a chance. Yeah, maybe if that dude picks it off, it looks ugly, but he did try and make a play happen. I think that's what you like from Skylar Thompson. He does feel like he's got a little bit more mobility to his game. Mike White did have one, a nice one that he should have been probably hauled in by Mike Harley. I know Mike Harley had to make a play on it, but both of those guys got let down a little bit by the receivers. Yeah, I didn't think that this is one of those where if Skylar Thompson is going to try that whole thing, if I was just trying to keep everybody calm again, I don't really want to hear that. But yeah, Skylar, Braxton Berrios is going to be kicking himself for not catching that ball. It was right there in the midst. Dolphins end up getting a field goal. They go up 10-3. So sticks around that, and then to close out, you probably had the last highlight really of the second half of the first half and the second quarter, because you have the this was crazy. The Dolphins punt. Elijah Campbell, big hit on the return. They throw a flag. Their punt returner is 5'8". He ducks like a turtle, and so Elijah Campbell clips his helmet. And they call helmet to helmet, which is just like, sometimes these football rules, it's like they think these guys are, can make these split-second decisions. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, because he didn't call a fair catch. So is he just supposed to whiff and let him run by? I don't understand that. What is Elijah Campbell supposed to do? I hated that. The highlight you were looking for from Chop Robinson happened after this. He gets a big hit in the backfield, loss of 4 for the Commanders. You get to the 2-minute warning, and Mo Kamar gets a monster sack on Jeff Driscoll, and just completely dish rags number 73 their tackle. And huge job by the rookies. They end up having to settle for a field goal. It goes 10-6, and so. Yeah, Dolphins are in a good spot. No touchdowns. The defense is holding strong. Not much more you can think about that. I will say their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and the little action that we saw from him, he looked pretty damn good. He looked good. He had some moments. That was the thing that was noticeable. And Bo Camper mentioned this on the broadcast about what is this? Is this defense going to be a little bend, don't breaky? It did feel like, there were a handful of drives where, yeah, the Commanders got some big plays, but it just always felt like Miami's defense came up with a monster one just to hold the fort and keep themselves in a big place. And then the second half, like I was saying, yeah, this started off kind of crazy. Eric Ezukama, who is I think looking to reignite some interest in himself. He had one of the craziest 7-yard gains you'll ever see. I mean, he literally reversed field twice, reversed it once, got hit, thought he was done, goes back the other way. And then after that, Chris Brooks, who I think everybody was expecting a lot of action for tonight, because you had Mostert start, you had Achane in there, and then the other running backs were all out. So this was unfortunate because this felt like Chris Brooks' big opportunity. Comes out, nearly has a 60-yard run, and then he gets hurt. And you're just like, damn, dude. That's cruelty right there. Obviously got hurt last year. This dude plays physical and it just feels like he's got, impact every time he touches the football, but this health thing has been a real crux and been a big problem for him. So the unfortunate thing after that is the Dolphins have to go to Jaquan Burton, who is an undrafted free agent wide receiver from FAU, Hoot Mother Bleepin' Hoot, and he has to be the running back for this team, which isn't fair, and it's not fair for him. And then this is the kind of goes to the, all right, if you think Mike White is about it, he literally didn't have a running back today, so he has to go out there basically. A couple pitches to Burton. And really, I got to say, I tweeted this out, but I think this holds true. If Burton goes out there and he plays emergency running back for an entire half, that guy deserves a practice squad spot. He's willing to do anything. But he he, got a pitch. He got a yard. They're trying. The Dolphins end up having to settle for 3. That would be their last score on this drive. And unfortunate for Chris Brooks to get hurt there. Really, really unfortunate. So Sanders would put the Dolphins up 13-6. They're up a touchdown. Commanders would get the ball back. Deal was that drive was killed by Brandon Peely, who just completely, demolished this guard like a monster, dude. Brandon Peely looked insane on that run on that drive there. So big one by him. He gets to the Commanders' punts galore the rest of this way. Mike White gets in at quarterback. He does find a beautiful pass to Eric Ezukama for about 35 yards, gets the Finns within the 15. So they were on their way to scoring again, and this was the vicious play. Probably the big low light for the rookies thus far, because the rookies had been killing it. And Patrick McMorris would have a good rest of his quarter, and Storm Duckwood too, and told you about Mo and told you about Chop, but Patrick Paul, he got shook out of his shoes, crossed up. Dude, the pass rusher, he gave him the old Kyrie Irving inside move, blows up Mike White, fumbles it. Sean Harlow, a backup guard, ends up getting rolled up on, so he gets hurt. Brutal play for the Giant. For the most part, had another good game. Kim Bocamper pointed out, looked like his conditioning was real strong, but that one they got crafty on that one, on the big Giant, and he gave up a bad one there. He did. He gave a bad one. It was an unfortunate ending, because that probably should have been the signature drive for Mike White, have the momentum going in. Unfortunate play for him on that one. And then Commanders have a drive that goes nowhere. Once again, Mike White finds Eric Ezukama. This one was actually on Jason Sanders, who is trying to beat the fat cat accusations. Yes, you can say that he maybe did some of that in the Christmas Eve game last year. But listen, every year's a new year. When you're got that big contract, you got to keep showing up. And he missed a 49-yarder, no good. So the Dolphins unable to get it going. And then what else is really of note here the rest of the way? A lot of punts, dude. A lot of punts. Anything left of note for this game? They said that Cam Smith ended up getting his leg wrapped up. We saw him get hurt. And then and then the one crazy thing that happened on the last play of the last drive of the game is Perry gets his deflection interception. And he probably thinks, "Oh, dude, this is pick 6 all the way," and he ends up fumbling it. So this one really did come down to the last drive, even though the Dolphins probably should have had a turnover to get it. And it was a brutal fourth quarter, because I'm sure there was an element of Mike McDaniel who wanted to just be like, "Hey, can we run the clock?" But you can't. You literally didn't have running backs, so you couldn't run the clock out. So the good of this game. I think if you were to grade it, well, look, you have Tua, of course, going out there and having the drive that he did. On the final numbers, what do we got here? Mike White finishes 11-20, 116 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Nobody had a pick today. Skyler, 8-15 for 61 yards. Chris Brooks, of course, 5 carries, 63 yards, 59 of that on one run. Eric Ezukama, 5 catches, 65 yards. I would say he probably had the most important, bottom of the roster day. Eric Ezukama's hey, you wanted to use me in ways last year. Odell's not quite hurt. You need a little bit more size. Going to be interesting to see what happens with Eze from here on out. He has shown himself in the preseason. We know he's a great receiver. What of it? What is the meaning of it? Who needed this the most? I would say he's up there. And then on the defensive side, I would say the best story is probably Cam. I would say Cam Smith playing the way that he did, and especially bouncing back after that early whiff. That's got to be the best story for me on the defensive side of it. The idea that he is able to, get through some adversity, already been through some normal adversity in his career, but I think that for him, He probably had the most important day. Channing Tindall had another sack. So, has gone another game where, you've noticed him and he hasn't been a ghost. So kick my camera. Big toes. So that I think was a big thing for him, that he was able to go out there and make himself show in this performance. But for next week, should they give a little bit more run? I don't know. This to me was enough shown. The one thing that worries me now is like so many bodies are getting hurt and so many guys are banged up. Talking about your 2 starting safeties are hurt. Your starting linebacker is hurt. Your starting center is hurt. Your your one of your top receivers may now be banged up in River Cracraft. You already have Odell hurt. Jalen Waddle's dealing with something that's had him out of practice for a week plus. Maybe the Dolphins really are at the point where it's like, don't even send anybody to Tampa for the joint practice. Cancel the joint practice. Send them up there. Let Mike White with Braylon Sanders do their thing and get to the regular season. This has kind of been a bloodbath the last couple of weeks with the amount of bodies they're losing. So, I don't know. That's kind of my feeling coming after this. I've seen the offense at their best. I see all the tricks, the tools. I don't really think they need any more tuning up. I'm not here to just get a halftime adjustment. Maybe the Dolphins should just go out there and, send all practice squad to Tampa Bay at this point. But ultimately, you had to be pleased. It looked really, really good today. So good on them. And we move on. We're trying to wind this thing down and get to some real football.